want to speak on any issues today, utilize your microphone, make sure it's on and working so everybody's able to hear you. As we get started this morning, want to welcome some recently appointed HRTPO board members from Franklin, Mayor Paul Kaplan, from Gloucester County, Supervisor Philip Bazzani, James City County Supervisors Michael Hippel and Jim Eisenhower, and Portsmouth City Council Member Yolanda Thomas. And I'd also like to welcome our new Hampton City Mayor, Mayor Jimmy Gray. So welcome to all of you. Thank you for being here. It's always a robust and fun conversation every time we come together. We'll move now to item number 2, and it's the approval of the agenda. We need to make some changes, I think. Mr. Crum, would you walk us through what that should look like or could look like?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I have 2 recommendations for revisions to today's TPO board agenda. Item number 1, your Personnel and Budget Committee would like to recommend that you remove an item under the consent agenda. We're going to recommend that with their recommendation that you remove the HRPDC personnel manual update, which would be item 7H. From today's consent agenda. Your Personnel and Budget Committee made a couple of tweaks this morning, and what we decided was that staff would make those changes, circulate those to all of the board members, and then you'll be able to get that approved at next month's board meeting. Secondly, the chair has recommended to me that the board consider adding an item to today's agenda. That item would be entitled Discussion of a Primary and Secondary Road Fund for the Hampton Roads region. And Mr. Chairman, I believe the request is that that be added between items 6 and 7. So that item would be discussed by the HRTPO board just before today's consent agenda. Mr. Chairman, I would recommend that the board consider amending the agenda as proposed.
Could I have a motion, please? Is there a second? All right. Properly moved and seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, no. And it is carried. Very good. Thank you all so very much. We'll move now to our public comments. Mr. Crum?
Yes, we have not received any public comments submitted in advance of today's meeting. Mr. Chairman, I'll call for any comments from the audience, from anyone who would like to address the HRTPO board today. Seeing none, sir, back over to you, Mr. Chairman.
Very good. We'll move now to agenda item number 4 and throw it right back to you, Mr. Crum, for your executive director's report.
Sir, included in your agenda is my monthly executive director's report. Just a couple of items, obviously a number of bills that we are monitoring on your behalf through the Virginia General Assembly. I will be attending the Hampton Roads Caucus meeting a week from today, next Thursday at 7:30 a.m. in Richmond, where we will be presenting the regional legislative agenda. And I believe there's a possibility that a couple of our elected officials may in fact be attending that with us. You have at each of your places today the regional legislative agenda that you approved last month. That brochure has of course been circulated to the various Hampton Roads General Assembly members. Sir, that concludes my report today.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Crum. And now item number 5, some employee recognition. Mr. Crum?
Yes, we always like to pause a moment and just recognize a couple of employees who have reached significant milestones with the HRPDC and the HRTPO. And I'm really excited today to introduce 3 people. I normally wouldn't do it this way, but I'd like to ask if Keith Nichols and Sam Belfield could both stand up at the same time. And there's a little bit of a reason behind this. You really can't write a story like this. 25 years ago, Keith Nichols and Sam Belfield started at the HRTPO on the exact same day. So can you imagine two folks showing up at 8 a.m. and lasting for 25 plus years? You've heard both of them a number of times before you with their exceptional work. You know, I can't describe that all in a few seconds, but let's start with Sam Belfield. You know, Sam, for the work he's done analyzing the transportation improvements necessary to support our military partners. You've heard about his work on StrawNet. If you're interested in flooding and the impacts on our roadways. Sam has been a great collaborator with our HRPDC and really has set the bar in looking at how we analyze flooding impacts on our regional transportation system, and has just done exceptional work. And he works in the department with Keith Nichols, who is our principal. I saw Brett Hall in the audience. Wavy calls Keith Nichols the man with the data, is what how Wavy refers to Keith Nichols. But in all seriousness, we're incredibly proud of that. You know, when the community, when the media is looking for data about our regional transportation network, whether it's safety, whether it's congestion, whether it deals with freight movement, many times that's Keith Nichols, who is the person that does that analysis. Keith and Sam are really the technical support engine behind the work of the HRTPO. Before I move on to our next employee, I just want to thank them both collectively. 25 fantastic years with the organization. Thank you for all you do, guys. John Mahaley, would you mind standing, sir? So John Mahaley is our HRTPO principal transportation planner. He's been with us for 10 years now. John currently is a principal. He manages our financial management program at the Transportation Planning Organization. All the TIP amendments, the Transportation Improvement Program amendments, all the financial work to support those TIP amendments, all the finances to move money around, get them in the right investment year to keep our projects moving. All of that happens through John Mahaley's department. And before he did that work, he used to do a lot of your grantsmanship work for the federal, your applications to the federal government and the state government. John, I appreciate all you do, including making certain we have quorums at these meetings and our votes pass with our weighted voting structure. But John, great to have you. Congratulations on a great 10 years.
Very good. Time always flies when you're having fun, doesn't it? Very good. We'll move now to agenda item number 6, and that is the election of officers. And before we move into that, if I just may say to all of you, thank you for the opportunity and the privilege to serve as chair the last couple of years. It's been eye-opening, engaging, and I've enjoyed. We have a tremendous staff here at the regional level, and both at the TPO, the PDC, and our HR TAC, just some phenomenal folks that fight on this region's behalf in so many ways. And so I just want to say, as I'm going out of this position today, how grateful I am, Bob, to you, to all of our staff on both PDC, the TPO, and also in HR TAC as well, and Director Page. Just got a great group of people. And so I'm grateful that all the heavy lifting you guys do. And again, to all of you, thank you for the opportunity to chair the organization for the last couple of years. I've appreciated the robust conversations that we've had, the moments that we've agreed, and the moments that we've challenged one another as well. So with that, thank you so much. And we'll move now to the agenda item number 6, the election of our officers. And do we have someone from the nominations committee for a report? Mayor Pons?
Yes, sir. I'll handle that for you. So back in November of 24, you know, the chair had put together a nominating committee to look at officers for the upcoming year. So we have met and we've come back with recommendations, and that would be for chair would be returning Mr. Hipple, my neighbor, James City County, and then vice chair, Mayor Rick West, and then for secretary, obviously, of the TPO would be the executive director, Bob Crum.
You've heard the nomination for the nominations committee. Is there any other nominations? All right, seeing none, we'll close the floor for nominations. What is your pleasure? Would you like to vote on them as a slate? If so, I'll entertain a motion to adopt the nominations presented for chair and vice chair.
So moved.
Second, it's been properly moved and seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. And it is carried. Congratulations, Chair Hipple and Vice Chair Mayor West. Congratulations. And here you go.
So, Mr. Chair-elect, if I may ask for just one moment. we do have a bit of an outgoing gift for outgoing Chair McCarty, if you wouldn't mind,
Yes, sir.
sir.
Please.
So Chair-elect, I'm going to give this to you so you can give a gavel back to him. But before we do that, Mr. McCarty, on behalf of our staff, I just want to thank you for your hard work on behalf of this board, on behalf of the Hampton Roads region and this organization. You've always been one to support our staff. You've always been available for phone calls, no matter what time of day. And I truly appreciate your hard work and guidance as you've done great things for our region. So thank you so much, sir. Mr. Hippel, if we could stand and maybe ask Mr. McCarty to, I'd like to get a picture with Matt with the incoming and outgoing chair.
Anywhere.
Let's do these around real quick. But real quick, Mr. McCarty, we knew you needed a gavel, so we took the liberty of getting your name added to the gavel as HRTPO chair from 2023 to 2025. And then if the TPO ever takes any actions after your leadership that you're not happy with, you can always get the TPO logo. We wanted to give that to you as just a great parting gift, and we would love, if you don't mind, getting a quick photo with both of you.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Just want to tell William what a wonderful job he's done this past year and taking care of everything that we need taken care in our region. And that's where we come together. You know, that's where we make a difference, is our regional ability to stick together, whether it's for a small community, a large community, whatever. We share in the responsibilities, which is, you know, it seems to be getting rarer and rarer today in society that, you know, a lot of people look out just for themselves. I've got to hand it to this group and how well y'all take care of each other and make sure, you know, a small community gets some part of the pie, big community gets some part of the pie, and we all share in the glories that each one of us bring to this table. So I want to thank you, and William, I want to thank you for your leadership. That says a lot for what you have done and how you brought this organization even further to keep regionalism here in the Hampton Roads area. So thank you, sir. All right. Let's move on to item number 6 and 7. Bob?
Well, so consistent with the action to revise the agenda, the next item on the agenda, Mr. Chairman, would be discussion of the primary and secondary road fund.
Yes, sir. All right. William, I know you have spent a load of time on this subject, as a lot of us have, but leading the cause, I want to give you a chance to start the discussion so that all of us can have a chance to discuss the items that are in front of us and see how we can move our region forward and help some of these areas with our secondary road funds and the problems that, you know, we never have enough money. I don't care what we do, we never have enough money to do the roads and the improvements. But I do have to say, since this organization has really got involved and with our delegates that are now our members that have helped us through this process as far as getting funds and be able to utilizing those funds and the taxes that we are able to do now, has helped us tremendously with the Hampton Roads Bridge Tunnel, with the interstate, the high-rise bridge, and a lot of other projects. So it's really promoted our region as well. So I'll let you lead us off if you would.
Thank you, Chair. As you know, we had a robust conversation the last time we met, which I greatly appreciated, and we came together and supported the construct of creating a primary and secondary road fund so that our region, whether you're in Southampton County, Isle of Wight County, York County, or one of our cities, that there were road projects that many of us, if we were to, and it's no harm meant towards VDOT or the state agencies, if we were to simply wait on them for a solution or to get to the projects, by the time they did, some of the other larger projects would require maintenance and of course take the necessary funds, and those projects could be 20, 40 or more years out. And so the establishment of a primary and secondary road fund would allow as we've all seen and Director Page had presented, we've done, as Chair Hippel just discussed, we've done some heavy lifts, pardon me, in our region over the years. This would allow us to leverage such skill sets and capabilities to provide the much needed support for the development and reinforcement of our primary and secondary roads. We had a lot of conversation. I felt a lot of good conversation, a lot of agreement on the fact that we needed something like this established. And in our conversations, we discussed that while we believed it was a need for establishment, that we would kind of lobby this or kind of give this to our state legislators and let them understand it, hear it. And I believe our Delegate Glass, was in that meeting, and that they would then from there create or come up with potential solutions, and that we supported such the creation of a fund, but we were going to leave it to them and their legislative process to create that and to come forward with a suggested plan. So we sent some letters out. Delegate Glass has created a bill that addresses, you know, not every bill do we get, does everybody get everything they think they want or need, but there are things that address, I believe, Mr. Chairman, needs across our region. And I think over the last 2 years, as I had the opportunity to serve as chair, we have talked about the primary and secondary road fund and the need for Hampton roads. We've talked about it quite a bit. And I don't know that there was any, at least to my recollection, any dissent, pardon me, on the need for such a fund or program to be created. So, Mr. Chairman, I think that's where we are. As a region, we either support the establishment of it or we don't. And I believe, based on the meetings that I had the privilege of chairing and discussing with many of you privately, that that's where we stood, was we supported the formation of such a program and funding mechanism, and we left it to the state to figure out what's the best modality for that. And they've done that, and they presented that to us on behalf of our region. And I think that's where we are, and would encourage continued support in that formation.
Thank you. And you know, add a few more comments to that as well. You know, just remembering where we were and where we've come and how far we've come. And if it wasn't for this group and if it wasn't for our help from our delegates and senators in order to put things in place, you know, we wouldn't be where we are now and wouldn't be able to do the things that we're doing now for transportation. And the almost 10 years I've been in the 4 organizations here, I've seen a lot of change. And I've seen a lot that is due to this group and what they've done coming together and putting things forward and working as a team and understanding, you know, like James City County, you know, the Hampton Roads Bridge Tunnel doesn't promote too much for us in James City County, but it does for our other communities that we have below us, and that how hard they work and what they try to put out and what they try to do. I mean, we've got a new casino in Norfolk coming on board, which, you know, if you're tied up in traffic, you're not going to want to go down there. But now that we're opening it up in Virginia Beach, and, you know, to get to the beach, I have a lot of our employees in our end of the county that say they don't like to go down there anymore because they can't get through the tunnel. It's not they don't love the area. They can't get through that choke point. Now we're going to get through that choke point. And Ryan came to the Kiwanis Club yesterday and put on a presentation to let them know what was going on with the Hampton Roads Bridge Tunnel. And it was amazing, you know, how the men and women there really realize now that this is not just a tunnel, that this is going to move the entire area. It's going to move James City County. It's going to move every one of us in the direction we need to go. Same thing with our road funds. None of us ever have enough money. And none of us, I'm sure, want to pay another tax on anything. I know I don't. But sometimes I need certain things. You know, when I go home at night or when I'm in this meeting and people talk about taxes and that sort of thing in James City County, I say, well, you know, I'm in a meeting down here in Chesapeake. And if something happens to my family, I'm paying taxes so an officer or a fire department or a rescue squad can come to my house and assist my family when I'm not there. And that's an important key component. And another part is our roads. we can't support our secondary roads. We can't get to those roads to repair them. And VDOT will tell you that they don't have any money. I mean, Smart Scale is going to be, it's going to last, but it's not going to last. Doesn't have the funds to carry these things. So this is just another tool in our cabinet to work on these other roads. And I've gotten so much good reports on the roads that we're doing now and how well people travel and everything. And it makes me proud of this group and what you do. So I'm going to open up for discussion. Yes, sir.
I just want to make an announcement, Mr. Chair.
Yes, sir.
Phil Bozanic from Gloucester County Board of Supervisors. We just got an email a couple weeks ago from our county administrator. Apparently, the governor has presented in his budget some language to eliminate the tolls on the Coleman Bridge. Long overdue. We, the citizens of Gloucester County, pay 70% of the cost of that bridge on tolls and the debt, and so hopefully this will go through to the Senate and legislature. So I just wanted to say thank you. If any of you had influence on that, we're proud of that. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments, thoughts, concerns? All right, seeing none. And like I say, we've always worked together as a team, and this is another team effort to move the ball a little bit further down the court. And, and we've got two different outlooks on this. I know that one letter was sent out that each one of us could sign as mayors and chairs, and I'm supporting this. And we've got a resolution that the incoming chair and outgoing chair can sign with Bob on support of this whole thing. So if you would like us to sign this and send it forward, then we're more than happy to sign this and send this forward. And then that way it'll help the mayors and chairs if they're kind of on the fence or thinking, I'm glad to put my name to it. And I know William's glad to put his name, of course, Bob, and we just need guidance from y'all in order to put our names on it and send this resolution forward that this is something we're looking forward to. William, do you have?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I would say that, we adopted a legislative priorities. We went through some robust conversation, and just from my perspective, we voted already that we support the formation of a primary secondary road fund. We discussed robustly that we would lean on the state to figure out what is the best way to move that forward. In that discussion, it was discussed that staff was able to socialize it and discuss that and have meetings with the delegates if they so chose. I believe I believe it's going through the process. Now, what we know about Richmond, not a crack or a cut. The reality is it doesn't seem like anything gets done most of the time on the first swing. Typically, you got to at least start the process. So I see this as starting the process. I think when it gets in front of our good folks in Richmond, that they're going to debate it, slice it, dice it, discuss it, look at the parameters of it. But I believe, just my position, is that we need to continue to stand behind the formation of this and let the state continue to discuss how it can come about. I don't think we should withdraw support of it at all. And quite frankly, we've already, discussed it and put forth our legislative priorities. And so that's my position on it. And that's all I'll say on
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
Okay, I need some clarification on this because by the time from the last meeting, which I was pretty vocal about, to now, okay, I may be vocal again here if I hear what
That's
I think I'm
okay.
gonna hear. Okay, so one, I'm not quite sure I understand what the issue is here. We've got it in our package already, that was approved by us, and then we've got this thing. I guess Delegate Glass worked this out, the details, right? A little more detail about the split of the money. And so are we about to do something on the recommendation from the delegate? Or are we debating another issue as to who signs the papers or who makes the recommendation? I mean, that part hasn't been cleared up yet. And I got to tell you, between that last meeting and now, I didn't have a whole lot of time to get in touch with Kevin and talk about this stuff. But I did. I finally got some idea, but I don't know the rest of this committee's heard details. So I would ask that we spend one. I'd like to know what the issue is here, if there is an issue, I don't know that there's an issue of who's, but I mean, on that proposal, but I've heard rumors that not everybody in here is going to support this. So can we, I mean, I don't want to be surprised by a vote. I would like to have a discussion or somebody talk about the pros and cons of what we're doing.
Go ahead. You first, go.
Mr. Chairman, with your permission, I think it's just important to Mr. Shepherd's question, if I may, that everybody have a clear understanding of what's going to be deliberated and debated so that you can all understand what specific options you have to vote on. So if I may, sir.
Yes, sir.
So as was mentioned, the idea of a primary and secondary road fund was approved as part of our legislative package. However, the board was not specific in terms of what would fund that. You mentioned and asked for the General Assembly to consider a variety of options, which included a direct budget appropriation, possibly an increase in the regional sales and use tax, or other options. And of course, that was what was acted on at the last TPO board meeting. Subsequent to that meeting, Delegate Jackie Glass filed House Bill 2466. And if I may, Mr.
Yes.
Chairman, just to make certain
Go right
everybody
ahead.
is crystal clear.
Yep.
HB 2466 filed at the Virginia General Assembly adds 0.3 of a penny to the current regional sales and use tax. As you know, HRTPO gets 0.7 for their work on interstate highway congestion relief projects. This 0.3 of a penny increase would generate about $84 million per year that could be used to support primary and secondary roads. In HB 2466, the additional 0.3 of a penny, the wording in HB 2466 splits that as follows. 2/3 of that additional regional tax increase would support infrastructure improvements to new or existing highway corridors connected to, surrounding, or paralleling interstate highways in Planning District 23, which is the HRPDC footprint. Minus Gloucester, since your residents don't pay those taxes, nor Surrey. Those residents don't pay those taxes. 1/3 would go as presented in HB 2466. 1/3 of it would support the Hampton Roads Highway Coastal Resilience Fund, which would address transportation infrastructure that is at risk due to recurrent and coastal flooding in Planning District 23. When that bill was filed, the then chair, the outgoing chair, determined that since this board had not taken a position specifically about what source of funding should support the bill, that the best course would be to reach out to all of you and ask for your position. The bill is very specific. It says increase the regional sales and use tax. Mr. McCarty wanted to know how everybody felt about that. For today, we have, based on, and as staff, we're trying to support you through this conversation. Today, we have two things at everybody's place today. Number one, those talking points that I just reviewed for you and Mr. McCarty just reviewed for you. Secondly is a resolution. The resolution reaffirms and restates the legislative agenda from last month. As Mr. Hippel said, that could be signed by the incoming chair and the outgoing chair and your secretary if you so chose. The other option is the letter that Mr. McCarty sent out to all you that is very specific and says you support HB 2466 as filed. So those seem to be your two choices to deliberate and consider for Mr. Shepherd's question. Do you approve the bill as submitted? Would you like to sign on to a letter supporting the bill as submitted? Or are you more comfortable with a resolution simply restating your legislative position from the last meeting? So, Mr. Chairman, thank you for your patience as I walk through that, but just sort of want to set that up so we
Thank
can
you.
see what was in front of us.
I appreciate that. Tom, did that answer all your questions?
Yes, well, not all of them, but I answered a good many of them. I want to point out to the TPO, now the HR TAC experienced this problem years ago, and I had to bring it to the HR TAC's knowledge that when they established like the HR TAC, for example, it was the senior, what do they call it? The senior representative or the local government, whatever, mayor, chairs. Well, chairs in the county are elected every year. Okay, they're not like mayors who'll sit through a cycle of 4 years or so, and by that time get attuned to what the issues are. The chairs don't. Okay, so the law was changed to have the county representative elect a representative to this. Okay, and it seems to be the delegates, the senators, and many people in the room don't understand that. Okay, so when it comes to people signing things, you got to make sure they really understand what the heck's going on. Now, I've tried over time and I'm sure all the representatives here that are not chairs, and I'm not chair of the York County Board of Supervisors, but I've been elected by the members to serve as a representative here. And over time, I try to bring them up to speed on what's going on. So some of the nuances of this proposal that's gone over the last 2 weeks are not clear to the chair to sign this. Okay, now, I don't see Ms. Knoll here, who is our chair, but I talked to her about it, and she asked me a bunch of questions, and I tried to answer them as best I could, and I think she will sign it. My sense is. So I'm going to vote, if we vote on whatever we're going to do, I'm going to vote to support this. Now, whether my chair actually supports it, I can't tell you. Okay, and I don't know how many other counties are in here. Mike, are you chair of the?
No, but I have my chair in the
Okay,
audience.
you got him hiding in here somewhere. Okay. So I just let you know, there's some of these nuances that take place over some of these issues. Now, I've been on this board, on this committee for years and years and years.
Yep.
So I feel confident that Ms. Knoll will go along with that. But I mean, just you see how some of the strangeness of this. So whatever path you take, okay, I mean, it could present, I don't know if it's going to present a problem or not. But
Yeah.
But are we still going to have to? We still have to do the same thing like we do on many of the HR TAC kind of things, where you have to have a certain portion of the vote to make it work, or so we got to do the same thing, right?
Yes.
So I'm looking over at Bobby Dyer and where's Kenny over here, and I'm going, okay, if you guys got some issues, you better bring them up, okay? Because
we will.
you're the big elephants in the room here. I like to know what's going on. All right, thank you.
Really appreciate that, Tom.
Mr. Chairman, thank you.
Mr. Mayor.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman, for this opportunity. We passed a legislative packet. It's gone forward to Richmond. And now our delegates and senators are doing what they have been elected to do, is to file bills and resolutions. And HB 2466 is a bill. And as introduced, Mr. Crum described it as introduced. I will tell you, we should let the legislative process take its place. Bills are introduced, but from the day a bill is introduced until that bill gets to passage, it will take on other versions, other iterations. Could be more taxes imposed. This is a tax increase bill. And there could be amendments in the House and amendments in the Senate. And we don't know what the final version will be. We've asked the General Assembly, this is just one bill, but there's time for other bills and amendments to be dropped in the hopper. It's very early in the process. We have passed a resolution supporting the creation of a fund. Let the process happen. There's no need for us to do anything at this point, in my opinion, but let the process happen. And as it gets closer, then if we need to opine, then we should do it. but let the process happen. I would not vote for doing anything other than what we've already done at this point.
Thank you, sir. And, and of course, the jobs that you had in the past and helped us in many a time for, to get HR TAC and get that in praise. We appreciate that very much. And, so you have quite a bit more knowledge than what I have on the process and what goes on. And I was thinking on this, it would be basically supporting the bill as it stands and just giving some merit and going, we support this as it stands right now. If it changes or something else, it may be something that this board would need to look at. But as the bill is written, and right now that I think that it would give maybe a little more power. You would know better, and I understand that. But I feel it may give more power from this group saying that this is something we need in our area. And that's why I was thinking with asking mayors and chairs and that sort of thing to sign on to it, that we would on your behalf sign on to it. Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, thank you. In honoring Mr. Shepherd's request for a comment, let me say I do concur with my friend from Norfolk. The one thing we have in common, folks, is that we're all going to be going into budget negotiations pretty soon. And we're getting ready to have a special retreat on our CIPs. We have billions of dollars in obligations and no money to pay for it. A lot of things, roads, infrastructure, everything. And we need a fund. We need a dedicated fund. And I can tell you why, because in the southern part of our city, in the agricultural, we have dangerous roads that have trenches on the side of them. And I think that's mission critical going forward. But the other thing, and if with Rick Dwyer, I put on my Harumpha hat. Road patency is part of military readiness and efficiency. And I see my friend Captain Jenny down there, prior CO of Oceana. And now that with all the operations that go on, between various bases and everything, it is really mission essential that we have that road structure, to accommodate as part of military readiness. And the other thing is too, if I can just tell you what we found out in our trips to the Pentagon, or we actually had a briefing with Matt Schwartz, that if we do go to confrontation with China, this area is going to be flooded with personnel and people. It is essential that we have those good roads. But by the same token, raising taxes during this time, there can be other options. And the fact is, from what I understand, there are budget surpluses, going on in Richmond that really should be our first, line of attack in getting this funding because of the essential, what the military brings to this region in terms of national defense is it's significant. And that should be a priority for Richmond. So I'm going to go along with Kenny Alexander. And I'll tell you what, maybe we just refocus and say, hey, we need this funding and we need a consistent funding stream. Hey, listen, schools and everything are very important, but so is national defense and so is the quality of life that we have here in this 757 region. So I'm going to concur with Mayor Alexander.
I guess I'm looking for some clarification. Obviously I do support the efforts for the fund and to get to whatever it takes to get funds for this mechanism. But the strategy of asking us to sign a letter, that was kind of questionable to me. To me, it's like council passes something, then I go back and ask each one of them to sign a letter. Well, that doesn't make sense procedurally to me. So although I signed a letter and certainly would do it, it didn't make sense for me from a procedural standpoint. Why is that? And so now I'm asking the question, what is it that's causing us to need, and I don't have a problem with a resolution at all, but what is it that's causing us to need this?
Mr. Chair, could I, if you don't mind, let me address that, Mayor West, great question. So one of the reasons I made the decision to send a letter out that way to everyone was so that, one, I'm appreciative of Delegate Glass picking up our calls in the creation and seeing the need for Hampton roads. I think that's important. But the reason I wanted to do that and to send that out is because I have always believed since I got elected in Ottawa County in transparency with everybody. And so rather than me sign on to something for the TPO as the chair at the time, wanted to make everyone informed of the bill that was being produced so that when you all came together, there wasn't this, well, why did Chair McCarty sign on to something? He never presented that. And I could, yes, I could rightfully so argue. We robustly debated and I asked the question twice about socializing any of the issues and we would support the state. But rather than create a situation that was potentially volatile at this commission, I made the decision to send those letters out so that everyone was in the loop of what the delegate had presented so that there would be no question of why did he sign on to this based on the legislative priorities when you may or may not have fully agreed with something in the bill. So that's why that decision was made, not to create any confusion, but just to be transparent so that no one in the region got a call and said, hey, we appreciate you supporting Delegate Glass in her bill. And you go, what bill? And so that's why that was
Okay,
taken.
thank you.
Mr.
I
Chair.
understand. I appreciate that. So now, why do we need a resolution? That's, I guess, my question. Because we passed legislative recommendations. So why do we need a resolution?
So if I may, I'll answer that if I could. So I think a resolution kind of solidifies, particularly in the resolution that's in front of us. It shows that we're serious about the creation of this fund. And that's why two different things are before you today, either the actual bill or a resolution that says we support the creation of this fund. And as it's all been discussed today, we're not all sure on where that money should or could come from, but we want to continue the dialogue and we support it being formed, that we're behind that 100%. So I think that just kind of codifies our region's position that we're behind the formation of it and we're behind the process beginning now in the discussion. So I would offer and proffer that that would be the reason.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman.
I think too, Mayor West, yes, I think basically, Mayor West, basically your point is we've decided this, and why are we asking again to sign this? Basically, sign it and move on is what I'm hearing. Is look, you don't need to ask me again. We've already said do it.
Either way, I'm fine either way, but
Okay.
yes, I'm ready to move on.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. I brought this up at our city council meeting in Franklin.
Mr. Mayor, if you hit your mic, sir.
Well, I thought
I had, I'm sorry. I brought this up at our city council meeting Monday, and I got some pushback because we're about as far west as Hampton Roads goes, the planning district goes, in the way of cities, and then our neighbors to the west, Southampton. We just don't see much coming back our way. And the way I read this, it's very specific on the secondary roads that probably would not affect any of our secondary roads. The secondary roads at Isle of Wight, secondary roads around Southampton, secondary roads around the rural parts of Suffolk are in desperate need of work, and our city sees that being ignored by VDOT. I know the money is only a certain amount of money, but I personally think that every time I drive across that new high-rise bridge, or we came across the HRBT today coming from the caucus meeting this morning, I see progress. I think it's wonderful, and I use those roads all the time. But you do understand that the people in the western part of the planning district feel a little neglected sometimes.
I understand that very well. I know even us in James City County
Sure.
at times do, but I'm gonna ask if I may, Kevin, could you come forward for representing HRTAC and answer that question of how do we make sure that we're spreading it across the region, not only for our areas that are larger, but our smaller and our areas that are out or just on the outer skirts of our district.
So I thank you, Chair Hippel, for asking me up here. I'm I'm going to try to interpolate where we're going with the question, sir, obviously, so I can give you the right articulation on that. So HRTAC, unlike Northern Virginia and Central Virginia Transportation Authority, was created to obviously respectfully deal with the Hampton Roads Transportation Fund, which is the highest congestion relief projects for the region, as determined and guided by the TPO to this policy board today. I think it's been a great job, but unfortunately, unlike Northern Virginia and Central Virginia, we don't have a carve out for primary and secondary roads. CVTA, our sister organization in Richmond, funds go to Henrico County and City of Richmond and Chesterfield and New Kent and Charles City, as well as in Northern Virginia, obviously through PRTC, the Potomac Rappahannock Transportation Commission. There are funds there available to the local governments as well for their discretion to move forward based on their regionally regionally applied revenues as designated by the General Assembly, wasn't by local referendum. So as you know, I really appreciate Mayor Franklin's comments, because Mr. Rabel told me the same thing, by the way, when I first came on HRTAC. He says, you know, we're really going to support this, but we're never going to see one of these projects, because they knew that the line of road improvements, like you said, Mr. Hibble, are not in some of these more rural areas. The other part, I think, and I've had a conversation with the chief, the patron of this bill, Delegate Glass, because I asked her about the Coastal Resiliency Fund, the Highway Coastal Resiliency Fund, and her perspective, and I'm not speaking for her specifically, but the way my takeaway on that was, especially how the legislation was written, is there's an attempt to try to spread, if a fund like this is created and money is put in it. So let's just talk about the bucket, not what's in the bucket. If the bucket is created, the fund is created, which I think a lot of the spirit I'm hearing around the table here. And I appreciate Mayor of Norfolk's comments, especially being the greatest in experience of both the House and the Senate. I think I really appreciated your comments on that. Once the bill goes in, it's like a lava lamp. It's going to bubble up in different ways. And so, the challenge that I think in the fund as it's written is that some of the areas are flooding, and obviously that's a primary for road improvements, constant flooding, continuous flooding, and then how do you set up for flood walls in the road to go through those flood walls or levees. And then out in the higher elevations, there's primary and secondary road needs, of the U.S. highway system and then the connecting roads with that. So that's my interpolation and explanation of why the bill is what it is, the 2/3, 1/3. And then in the analogy of that, it comes back to this body, the TPO. Mr. Shepherd, you've been very proud, I think, in a lot of your comments, both at HRTAC and at the TPO and publicly, about how this body, the TPO, being the transportation policy body, has done a great job of prioritizing projects, coming up with a statistical analysis and the means and methods to make that happen. So I think that, if 84.1 million is funded some way, or the fund is created and some money comes to the region, I certainly think that would be under their perspective of the people around this table as to how it could be fairly treated and distributed. Mr. Chair, if I may just make one more quick comment to add to this. Mr. Hall and I have had some continuing dialogue about the district smart scale program, which all jurisdictions, large and small, have the opportunity of applying for. And this year, which is the 6th round of the smart scale program, has the lowest amount of revenues available for distribution. And those funds will not become available for 6 more years. So there's a huge gap right now, not only in available funds, but also that pot is getting smaller, and also the longevity of time a project sits before it's actually built under the smart scale program. Thank you.
I did have one more thing at the Hampton Roads Caucus this morning. The members that were there were critical of themselves because they felt like they as a group did not come together and work as a region. They often fought for the monies and the funds for different projects for their own city or their own district or their own area, as opposed to what's going on in Hampton Roads and more in the Richmond area, where they come together as a unified body to try to make a decision based on what's good for the region. And with regional cooperation, they should be doing the same thing. I know we can't control that, but we have feedback to our delegates and our senators.
Thanks, sir.
But thank you for the explanation.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Chairman Hippel.
Yes,
I want to change chairs next time. I won't be down.
There you go.
Out of sight, out of mind, but that's okay. Just going back to the comments at our last meeting and what I've heard today from Mayor Alexander, Mayor Dyer, Mayor West, and everybody else around the table. To Mayor West's point, it does seem like why would one be necessary without the other? But I think I don't have any problem sending both of them. I mean, under normal circumstances, the resolution would have gone out first. And then hopefully, once the resolution is taken into consideration, then it would create a bill. And what we had in front of it, the bill is already done before we sent the resolution. But I think there's still reasoning to send the resolution out, because the resolution, when you look at it next to the last paragraph, it provides the options, which is what we discussed. So it's not specifically ask for something. We're identifying a problem. We need X number of dollars to fix it. We really don't care where the money comes from. I don't care where the money comes from. But a suggestion would be provided by this board that a 0.3 cent could be an option. So that in turn opened it up to whoever was going to consider a bill. Well, we have a bill that took that consideration and incorporated it into the bill itself. So I don't see the downside to doing a resolution, negotiating, sending a resolution, and also rendering support for the bill. It would be hard not to render support for the bill when in the resolution we said we'd be okay with 0.3 cent. And so here we have one that says 0.3%, and we're not going to support that. It's just counterintuitive to do that. And to Mayor Alexander's point, I mean, we've got this thing in early. I mean, it can morph any way it needs to morph. And if they don't want to do it this way, we have a resolution say, all right, write the check. We don't care where the money comes from. So I'm totally in favor of, like I said, I support both of them. I mean, I think we should send the resolution, and then under normal circumstances, the resolution shows up one day, and then this is the result of it the next day. And I think what's got it somewhat convoluted is we're considering both of them at the same time. And I think that was Mayor West's point. But I would fully support signing a resolution and the bill, and let's see where it goes.
Thank you, sir. Yes, sir.
It seems to me that we were very successful where we are, because I remember the mayor of Williamsburg sitting here saying, I never thought we'd get this done in my lifetime. Because before we had the money to do what we've done with all these major projects, we had billions and billions and billions of dollars worth of projects on the books that we were never going to fund, because it was chaos. And so General Assembly, was it 2013, came in, said, yes, do it. And I also remember the governor, I think it was McAuliffe, came in and said, okay, look, we got your bill passed. I don't want to hear from you guys again. I'll never forget that. Okay. And that was they pushed the problem over on us. They've given us the permission to raise our own taxes. That's just absolutely stunning. And then we've had to beg and plead through the years to get money out of the state. But anyway, we had a successful process. Where'd Kevin go? Okay, we had a successful process. Bob, we had a successful process. We kind of came together. But everybody remember the what was it, the triangle or the sickle or whatever in the hell he called it? Urban Crescent. And so what we did is we became a big pain in the ass.
Yeah.
Okay. And that was normalizing. I mean, I go back to, you said normalizing last meeting. That was normalizing to me, was that we were like a dog on a bone, man. We were not going to give it up. And we just kept coming at them. And they created one, the Supreme Court shot it down, did another one, and it passed. Okay. So to me, this is like a little bit of a battle here. You keep firing rounds up there until somebody says, okay, an uncle,
Yep.
okay, and gives us permission to do our damn goodness down here on our own. So yeah, Bobby, I heard you had billions of dollars, right? There's billions of dollars on everything we're doing. And taxes are a pain in the butt, but I could go to my constituents and say, look, you know, high-rise bridge, the tunnel, you know, 64, and all these things. These are things, this is bread and butter stuff that people see. They don't have to, you know, the social services stuff, which are important, but they never see it because it goes to a small percentage of the population, but it affects everything. This is something that's in your face, okay? Now we did the process, the Urban Crescent, because we got everybody together and we did it on education also. Okay, and then we got money for education and we got money for transportation. So we have a process. Why don't we follow that process? It worked. I don't know if this is part of that process, I'm all for it. And if we're still sticking them in the butt with a needle, if they're not moving our way, then let's go at it. It's just keep doing it until we get it done. Otherwise, folks, we're going to end up like we were before 2013, and we'll be sitting here talking for months and years on stuff that we're never going to get done.
Thank you,
Thank
sir. Any other comments? Anyone? Oh, yes, sir.
Thank you very much, Mr.
Thank
Chair. I appreciate it. David Hucks, Mayor of the City of Poquoson. Of course, we are a small city, and we're also isolated on a peninsula. We have that somewhat in common with Franklin, as we're outliers and we're small, but we're part of this in the spirit of regionalism, and we support our larger partners. And so far as the resolution and the letter, I'm perfectly comfortable with signing both of them, and would also like to emphasize that in my position now, I certainly respect the expertise and the experience of people that have been at this a lot longer than I have. So far as the letter goes, if we could change one word, I would be more comfortable with signing the letter. The opening statement says, as mayors and chairs representing the local governments. Some of us being asked to sign this letter have not necessarily been able to articulate that to our communities and fellow elected members. Could we consider, please, changing the word representing the local governments to of the local governments? It just takes a little bit of the heat off of the other people that aren't as familiar as we are with this. And I'll also use a sports analogy if I can. I do know that we do not hit 100% of the pitches that we don't swing at. So I would encourage us, Mr. Shepherd, Mayor West, to keep swinging. So thank you.
Thank you, sir. Yes,
Mr.
sir.
Chairman, if I may, if it would be in order, I'll make a statement that I have a motion, if it would be seconded by the body. I'm grateful. I don't know a whole lot about the state process as far as being there. I've just been in local office now my third term. I'm appreciative to our state senators and delegates that at least step up to the plate to try and do things for our region. I believe that's important. And I believe when they do those efforts, I think it's worth standing behind them, or at least letting them know that we support what they're trying to do for our region, with the understanding that it's probably going to take on various forms and slices and dices through the process. So I'm grateful that we have state delegates and senators that will swing the bat, so to speak, for our region. And I want to be able to support that. Mr. Chairman, I would move to adopt both items before the body today. That is my motion.
I'll second that.
Second. All right.
Could I recommend that, and I apologize for this, but I want to be clear. I think it would be appropriate to have the resolution read into the record.
Yes, sir. Please.
So, Mark, hey, we can go ahead and leave that resolution up on the screen. Everybody has it at their place. The resolution is a resolution of the Hampton Roads Transportation Planning Organization, supporting the creation of a primary and secondary road fund. Whereas the HRTPO is the federally designated transportation planning organization for the Hampton Roads region, known as Planning District 23, and whereas the HRTPO identifies, plans, and prioritizes regional transportation projects through the federally designated transportation planning and prioritization process, and whereas the HRTPO has identified over $3 billion of unfunded needs on the region's primary and secondary roads, and Whereas the HRTPO's regional legislative agenda identifies this significant funding need as a regional priority and requests the assistance of the Virginia General Assembly to address this funding challenge. Now therefore be it resolved that the HRTPO reaffirms its request that the Virginia General Assembly create a primary and secondary road fund for the Hampton Roads region that provides funding to advance critical and unfunded transportation projects. And be it further resolved that the HRTPO requests that the Virginia General Assembly consider a variety of options to support the primary and secondary road fund, such as a direct budget appropriation, increase of the regional sales and use tax, or other available funding options, approved and adopted by the HRTPO on the 16th day of January 2025. If approved, that would be signed by Mr. Hippel as incoming chair, Mr. McCarty as outgoing, and of course your secretary. And then if I may, Mr.
Yes,
Chairman,
I'm gonna ask that.
since it's a joint motion, the letter would read as follows. And again, I apologize, but just to be clear that everybody is comfortable.
Definitely want all of it out.
And I would offer the amendment per Mayor Hux. As mayor and chairs of the local governments of the Hampton Roads Transportation Planning Organization, we are pleased to offer our full support for House Bill 2466, which would create the Hampton Roads Interstate Highway Corridor Improvement Program and Fund, as well as the Hampton Roads Highway Coastal Resilience Fund. The bill provides for 0.3 of a penny regional sales tax increase to raise approximately $84 million per year, which can be financed and leveraged through the Hampton Roads Transportation Accountability Commission to support the following. 2/3 of the funds would support infrastructure improvements to new or existing highway corridors connecting to, surrounding, or paralleling interstate highways in Planning District 23. 1/3 would support the Hampton Roads Highway Coastal Resilience Fund that would address transportation infrastructure that is at risk due to recurrent and coastal flooding in Planning District 23. This proposed legislation would allow the Hampton Roads region to advance critical and unfunded transportation projects that are necessary to support and address economic development, the Port of Virginia, military and federal facilities, resiliency and flooding, public safety, and other issues in Hampton Roads. As noted in our regional legislative agenda, the HRTPO has identified over $3 billion of unfunded needs on the region's primary and secondary roads. The funding provided by this proposed legislation would allow nearly $1.5 billion of our unfunded transportation needs to be delivered by HRTAC between the years 2029 and 2024. We are pleased to support this proposed legislation and request supporting action by the Virginia General Assembly. So, sir, I just wanted to read into the record clearly for everyone what the vote would be on.
Now, with that being mayors and chairs, should it be mayors and representatives of their, like Tom was saying earlier, some of the chairs are not represented in here. I know our chair supports it, but and Tom's, it sounds like Tom's chair supports it, but.
So would it be, would the friendly amendment be as mayors, chairs, and representatives of?
I so move.
Okay.
Thank you. So I believe you have a friendly amendment.
And we have a second. All right, and then we're gonna roll.
Point of clarifications.
Yep.
Excuse me. Discussion?
Did this
I'm sorry.
motion, does this motion compel or require mayors, chairs, and representatives to sign a letter?
No.
It seems to be, that's how it looks to me. We talked about the resolution, we have the signatures here, and we're talking about a second act, which is a letter, and there are no signatures here, but there have been requests for us to do signatures. I cannot support any actions that would compel us to to have everyone sign a letter. I just can't do that. But I'm glad to support a resolution signed by the folks as presented here.
So can we just do the resolution
Then, Mr. Chair, I will withdraw my motion.
then? Okay.
I would like to make a new motion, please, that we adopt the resolution that is before the body today.
Thank you. Thank you.
Second. Any other
Yes,
discussion?
yes,
sir, Mayor.
yes, thank you. Thank you for that. That's where I was going. I was going to ask to several and not combine them. And thank you, Mayor. On the resolution, in the be it further resolved, it should end with support the primary and secondary road fund, period. We go on and states such as budget appropriations, increasing taxes, other available funds. That's so convoluted. End it, and I can support the resolution.
And I would concur with Mayor Alexander.
So just to be clear, Mr. Mayor, that would leave them to consider whatever options they see fit without.
They're the General Assembly, let them figure it out.
All right, I will concur with that change.
We have a first and a second. You have it. Need to reread it so that.
Yes, so the revision would be that be it further resolved that the HRTPO requests that the Virginia General Assembly consider a variety of options to support the primary and secondary road fund, period. That would end there. The remainder would be deleted.
That is my motion. All right.
Any other discussion? Yes, sir. No? Any other discussion? We're good? Everybody good? Okay, let's take a vote.
So if it appears to be unanimous, we could call for the vote. If you'd like, we could do a roll call vote, but sir, it seems like you have consensus. You could call for a voice vote.
All right, all in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, nay?
Well, we abstain from DRP2.
Any abstentions?
Can we pause and make certain that we can capture those abstentions for the record, please? Maybe
One abstention?
one
Two
abstention.
abstentions.
Mr. Hall abstaining from VDOT.
DRPT
Mr.
abstaining.
Trogdon from DRPT abstaining. Any other abstentions? All good, Kelly? Thank you.
Motion carries. Thank you very much. Got to keep it moving, so everybody's got a lot to do, but you move us on to our next item.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, before the board today is approval of your consent agenda. Keeping in mind, we are removing item H, HRPDC Personnel Manual. I would recommend that the board take action approving the consent agenda today with that change.
Motion for approval?
So moved.
Second. All right, all in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, we'll move forward. Number 8.
So to shorten today's agenda, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Perryman and I have been texting, and what we would like to do is bring Mr. Perryman back to next month's meeting. He's got exciting report from Norfolk International Airport. I can tell you there's so much going on. We're not going to get that done in 15 minutes. However, in the Hampton Roads Rail Crossing Study, Mr. Nichols, I would recommend we bring back next month. But I would recommend that we hear from Amy Jordan on Go Commute. And if that's okay, Mr. Chairman, we'll hear that briefing, and then that will conclude our meeting today.
Sounds good. Yes, sir. Let's move her on.
Thanks for your patience, Amy.
Thank you, Amy.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning, Chairman Hippel. So congratulations. I know I stand in between you and lunch, so I'm going to be very brief with this. But thank you for having me back this morning. Let me go ahead and advance the slides. All right, so just want to give you a little bit of a recap of what we did last year, just so you can see some of the accomplishments that we had. But we had over 4 million vehicles miles that were reduced this year. These are people that are participating in our programs, and so many of them, they log these trips in our app that we use with DRPT called Connecting VA. So we're able to track a lot of these metrics. 864 new members, over 200,000 trips recorded in that app, and that was a reduction of 1.7 100,000 tons of emissions. We also administer the Go Pass program for HRT. So Go Commute, if or Traffics as it was once called. I'm going to get to the Go Commute piece. It represents the WADA district, the HRT district, as well as Suffolk Transit, and the areas that are underserved or not served by transit and Hampton roads. So even though we're administered through HRT, we represent everyone in these commuter programs. But we do administer this Go Pass program on the HRT side. It's an employer-based program. And so this allows major employers or employers just throughout the region to be able to participate where they're able to get about an 80% reduction on the cost of the pass for an annual pass for their employees. The shipyards and others are really big contributors to this. So we have two new organizations that came in, and our revenue for that was over 500 million and 440,000 rides with those Go Pass programs. Vanpool, we saw this really slack off during the pandemic. We're excited to be able to be bringing it back. We have some excited changes and things that we've been launching actually with the new year. So you'll hear more about them at another time. But we did get 3 new Vanpools in our program. So those are ones that are actually using our contracted services and are able to take advantage of our grant program. 218 passengers in the van pools total of those that are using our program. And then I'll quickly point out in the room, he can raise his hand or stand up. Caleb Smith, he is our military liaison for Go Commute, also does a lot with the HRT side as well. And he is at our base office in Norfolk most days of the week. And one of his other duties as assigned when he came on with us a little over a year ago was we needed to update this office. It looks sort of like a, kind of an old sales office and not something that was welcoming. And so we did a renovation of that, had a ribbon cutting. It's also been a great way to really promote the Base Express service that we have out at the base, which is getting ready to celebrate over 100,000 rides on the Base Express. So we're very excited about that. We also launched this past year a program called Bike Boost. So this is actually getting bike infrastructure in places that is needed in the region. So we've had an application process. We've gone through those applications. This is going to put more bike racks and bike repair stations in different places in the region. Bike Month, which will be in May, we will announce where those are going, and you'll start to see some of these installations. So we're very excited to add that. Marketing campaign. So this past year, and we're back in it again, we did Vanuary. It was the first year that we did it, so now we're in the second year of that. This year, we're doing a little bit more targeted approach, working with our shipyards and ship repair, because we find that's one of our biggest users for this service. But you can see we really got around with that as far as the marketing. We then did for February, and we're bringing this back, Ride Share the Love, which, how do you make ride sharing kind of romantic and fun? But it's actually finding ways to improve your life. So you think about it, I'm gonna ride with my best friend to work and grab a cup of coffee beforehand. I'm gonna take the ferry in and actually just enjoy the ride. I take the bus sometimes over from Hampton to Norfolk, free Wi-Fi, or I can sit back with a book. I don't have to stress, let the operator do that in the bus. And so lots of ways to actually kind of romanticize that commute a little bit more. So again, we were on the 757 show, did a lot of radio spots, billboards. So this was exciting, seeing the results of this. We had almost an 8,000% increase in visits to our Vanpool assistance page last year when we did the Vanuary campaign. So it really resonated. And then, of course, got 3 new Vanpools out of that. You can see for our Ride Share the Love, we had, if you don't know much about social media, that 3.16 click-through rate on our reels is amazing. So again, a lot of interaction, getting people to really participate, think about these programs, and bring awareness. So then that moved us into connecting businesses. Again, what are we doing to get businesses more engaged? Because this really is like a workforce program. How do you get employees to work? Congressman Scott often tells us, if you can't get to work, you can't work. So it's very important that we work with the businesses to connect them. So we did a lot of marketing around that, created new marketing materials and brochures that we didn't have before. We worked with our chambers, not only attending at events, but participating in other business events. Chairman Hippel, this is actually up at the winery, Williamsburg Winery, for the WI Daily, the business event that they do. And I got to tell you, when you put a glass of wine in people's hands, that prize wheel gets very exciting. So we had a lot of interest there. And then that moves us into Earth Day, which of course is a big celebration for us. We're always out doing events, reminding people the importance of this with green and sustainability as well. That takes us then to Bike Month. Very exciting time that we had this last year. We actually had Pedigo Bikes. They have a location in Williamsburg, in the Williamsburg area, and in Norfolk. I think they just recently did a name change, but they actually donated an electric bike that we were able to give away during Bike Month to get people to participate in the programs. I'm here to tell you, I rode my bike from Hampton to Norfolk. It can be done for Bike to Work Day. I rode it to my bus stop. I put it on the front of the bus. It went through the HRBT, and I took it off, and I, rode it into work. So it can be done. You can do it. And I plan to do it again this year. So just again, here's some of us at our different Bike Month events around the region. We hosted a bike expo last year in Norfolk. We took that over for a regional bike expo. We're actually going to have one in Hampton and in Norfolk this year. So we have it on both sides of the water, up here at Jamestown doing biking events, just all over in Portsmouth on the ferry, got into every community we could. And then just a little bit of our media metrics here. So that takes us to, we have a new brand. We are no longer Traffics. I told everybody at work there's going to be swear jars, and every time we say that word, we have to put money in there. I probably owe the most right now. So we're replacing an outdated brand. Traffics has been around since 1995, since we started what we call this transportation demand management program in the region. It's confusing for customers. They don't always get what it is. A lot of them think it might be the guy that changes your tire on the side of the road. They work for VDOT. With all the construction and things we have going on, it's just hard for people to resonate. They don't really always get the FIX. We found with the younger generation, they actually thought it was a program for human trafficking. So it really started to create a disconnect there. So it was very important that we thought about, okay, how are we connecting with our audiences? This region turns over its population. It's very transient with our military and our contractors. So you always have to be marketing and have something that's easy to market. So this was our old outdated mission statement. I'm not going to read it to you. It's a lot of words. We didn't have a vision statement before, so we created a vision statement and then a new mission statement. So we did this internally as an organization. It was a great way for the team to really work together and think about what we do and who we are. So we did this first before we even started going down the brand. That allowed us to come up with brand concepts. We did all of this internally. So we had two different concepts, Ride, Link, and Go Commute. We took those out to professional and business organizations. We took them out to high school bus riders, other internal stakeholders to get their input on what would make a great brand. And that led us to Go Commute. It was actually the Go Commute, but we kind of combined the colors. There was a lot of input on the colors that we got. So brand rollout, we we're with those stakeholders. September, we put together our plan. October, we started communicating to internal stakeholders. And then November, we began the external launch. So you might have seen some of these billboards or other things around the region. You'll be hearing the radio spots. So just again, to familiarize you with some of what you see with that. So as part of that, we also did, for the first time ever, a strategic plan. So this is just some of the highlights from that. The population we know has decreased by about 7% since 2019, since COVID. Peak commuting hours have really changed because, and they're a little bit different here anyway, because of the kind of industries that we have. Our shipyards and our naval bases, they go to work a little bit at different hours than what you would in Northern Virginia or the Richmond area. And then shopping and recreation changed. People are doing their Uber Eats but they're also watching their videos and Netflix at home, so they're not going out as often. So it really changed commuter habits. This is just a map that shows you the trips by destination and where people are coming from. And we then also noticed a big change in those van pool programs or van pool participants. But what we also found with our van pool participants, so you can see here, actually, I'll see 3 main work destinations: the Naval Station, Smithfield Food Processing, and Newport News Ship. So we saw really a trend in who's really using those programs and where they're traveling from. This is actually two different maps that show you the one on the left is actually pre-pandemic, and the one on the right is now showing you where people are coming from. We do get a lot of people from North Carolina. We've actually been working with Newport News Ship on a program to expand the van pool there. If they're coming to an employer in Hampton Roads, they can still participate in our program as long as the employer is here. And so it's really pulling people into that region, but this does demonstrate that change. So what we found with that, that what really resonated with customers and potential customers is that travel time and convenience were the most important things in participating in a program like that. Then for our van pool and our carpool workers, cost was also a major factor. So those are really the three main messages that we're using as we are marketing these programs and improving these programs to get people to participate is travel time, convenience, and cost. And then just a little bit, again, I won't bore you with this, but just some of the objectives that we have come up with as we're rolling out this new strategic plan. And then because we were rebranding at the same time, we went ahead and did a marketing plan to go along with this that helps us take those strategic plan goals and find ways to implement them. So this gives you just an idea of what that's like. So that is where we are. And so now we are Go Commute, or GoCo for short. We have a new website, so please check that out. And I'm happy to answer any questions or stay back and discuss the programs with anyone afterwards.
Any questions? All right, thank you,
All right,
Amy.
thank you so much.
Remember, Go Commute, and also remember as Valentine's comes, take your significant other out on a bus ride, but make sure you bring them back. All right, Bob.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, included in your agenda, I'll leave it to the chair if you want to do partner reports or if you'd like to defer those to next month.
Let's defer them.
Okay. Your various FYI items are included in your agenda. Just a quick reminder, we will have lunch for everyone over behind our reception area by the 757 room in between meetings. So please stop on over there. The HRPDC meeting will begin at 12:30. A lot of interesting items. The board will consider the approval of regionally consistent resilience design standards. And then secondly, Nikki Johnson, your regional economist, will be presenting our economic forecast for the upcoming year. So hope everybody can join us back in here at 12:30. That's all we have, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you much. Meeting adjourned.